Dr. Gurevich, everybody, you may or may not know, is an incredible naturopathic physician. She has helped me personally so much. And she's in Portland, Oregon. She's coming to us live right now through our incredible technology that we got to work, which is great. And I wanted to let everybody know a little bit about the history with Dr. Gurevich. So I was introduced to her from Dr. Alison Becker. And you know, when Allison likes someone, she's like, oh, they're amazing, they're fabulous. And then you meet them and they really are. But I'm about to tell you, there's a special twinkle in Dr. Becker's eye when she talks about you, Ilana. Oh. She really adores you.
We have doctor crushes on each other.
Yeah, it's good to have a doctor crush, right? Yeah. That's such a refreshing change of pace instead of like a doctor grudge.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, Dr. Gurevich recently did a mini-series for us at Sibo SOS. And it was beyond Sibo testing. So after your Sibo breath test, you still have symptoms. What should you do? And she went through all of the optimal levels, for example, in blood tests, and she went over stool testing, parasite testing, and on and on. Then she was so enthusiastic about sharing what to do after you are done with treatment for Sibo and some other treatments that you may have had for parasites and all that. And she wanted to do a gut rebuilding class. So I just glommed it right on to that first one, and we made it a mini-series. We now have her back, thank goodness. One of our best attended classes, by the way. And
that's awesome.
It was fantastic. They're all well attended, but I have to say, there's another part that she wanted to share with us. So she's going to tell us a little bit right now about that. There's an update. So what's going to happen is you'll have instant access if you do choose to purchase the Masterclass mini-series to the first two that I just talked about. It's over 2.5 hours of content, plus the Q&As, which were really helpful. But then she's going to, on Saturday, give us the update. And we're here to talk about that as well as to answer some questions in the Facebook group. And there's a link floating around here for the Q&A and masterclass on Saturday. And if it's not here already, I'll put it on. So Dr. Gurevich, enough of that. Hi, tell me about this new edition, this new information you want us to know.
So what happened was I did the masterclass for you, and then I turned around and I did both of those masterclasses as medical education for continuing ed for doctors. And so what came out of it is it was very clear that I had left pieces out. And there's a couple of parts that I really wanted to fill in. The first is probiotics. I did an extensive literature search about what's out there and what's been studied about probiotics. So what I'm going to talk about on Saturday is how you classify the different classes of probiotics, when you would need them. Plenty of people will say, I tried a probiotic and it was amazing and it changed everything. And plenty of people will say, I tried a probiotic and it totally made you worse. And so the reason why it's making you worse is because that class of probiotic is not working for you. And we have a lot of different options. So in the class on Saturday, I'll talk about the usual probiotics we're used to seeing, which is Lactobacillus bifidoacidophilus, the class 1. I'll also talk about the studies for Saccharomyces, or a class 2. Probiotics, when you would need them. Plenty of people will say, I tried a probiotic. I tried a probiotic and it totally made you worse. And so the reason why it's making you worse is because that class of probiotic is not working for you. And we have a lot of different options. So in the class on Saturday, I'll talk about the usual probiotics we're used to seeing, which is Lactobacillus bifidoacidophilus, the class 1. I'll also talk about the studies for Saccharomyces, or a class 2. Probiotics, when you would need them. Plenty of people will say, I tried a probiotic. How are we doing?
I fixed it. I fixed the echo. I fixed it.
Okay. So then I'll talk about Saccharomyces class 2. I'll talk about the spore-based probiotics, which is pretty interesting. The Bacillus class of probiotics, which is pretty interesting. There's a lot of research coming out about them. The research looks really good, but a lot of it is manufacturer paid for. But still, I'll talk to you about what they're finding. And then the last one is one that you can't get through the US. It's E. coli niceri species that has some studies for ulcerative colitis. So I'm going to talk about that just so we can kind of flush out the probiotics so people, because this is something that people can very easily and cheaply try. And I'll also talk about dosing. And then the second thing that I'm going to talk about is I have fallen in love with quercetin. So I'm running a lot of stool analysis for my Sibo population who we treat the Sibo and they don't get better. I immediately start looking for parasites. And the stool test that I'm running tests for zonulin. Zonulin is a very, very clinically verified marker for intestinal permeability, both in blood and in stool. I'm doing it in stool since I'm looking for parasites. And when we see it, we know that there is leaky gut or intestinal permeability. It is a lab test that we can directly link to intestinal permeability that we can then treat. And the way that I'm treating it really successfully right now is with uber high doses of quercetin. So I'll talk about quercetin, where it's from, how you use it. And then it's just, these are things that are so accessible and I'm finding them so clinically effective.
I love quercetin. And
yeah, me too.
I doused for it and have had energetic medicine done to see if it's good for me. And it's like through the roof good for me. I'm very excited.
And I'm finding that so much for patients, small bowel patients. It doesn't do anything for the large bowel, or at least there's no studies to tell me it does anything for the large bowel.
I got both, so there you have it. Okay. This is some questions from, do you guys know what quercetin is? Can you explain to everybody what it is?
Yep. Quercetin is it's a bioflavonoid that's found in a lot of fruits and vegetables. And in supplement form, they take that one particular molecule of quercetin and they put together in uber high doses. It's super useful for allergies. And that's how I used it for most of my clinical career. And now there's some good, there's some small, but relatively good studies that link it to GI stuff. And then I'm having a lot of clinical experience with it.
You know how I first learned about quercetin was on TV when I was selling some skincare.
Oh,
they use it topically, and it was like, I think sourced from like oak trees.
Yeah.
Oak. So and I was having a really hard time pronouncing it, so they just say quercetin. So I'm like, I can say the word corset. Yeah, I can do that.
For anti-aging or for acne? Do you remember?
It was anti-aging.
Interesting. Yeah, because it's an antioxidant.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Whatever. On the body, in the body, it's all good with me. But I just started taking it, and Dr. Tom Messenger did my energetic medicine testing, and he was like, "Okay, you need to do more of this."
Yeah. What dose are you at?
I can't remember. It's in the other room, but it's like a crud load.
Yeah. And it really. I can't, it's just so, I had this patient that he was a celiac patient sent over to me from Lisa Shaver because she couldn't get him in. And we ran his GI map, which is my favorite stool test. And his zonulin was like a 560. Normal is under 107. And so, but she didn't have he had a little bit of bacteria, no parasites, no worms, no H. pylori. And so all we did was high dose quercetin, a good probiotic. And he used to have these chronic headaches. They were just gone within like a week or two. But you have to dose it right. You have to go high.
All right. More on that later. More on that this Saturday for our mini series continues with Dr. Ilana Gurevich. Okay. So here's some Facebook Live questions from Nikki. Thanks, Nikki. I know you're a regular. I'm wondering what you think of digestive enzymes. I am post treatment and my SIBO symptoms have disappeared. However, I'm still having trouble with slow digestion. Lots of burps and often feeling of food stuck in my stomach. Bitters give me heartburn. HCl at any dose seems to make it worse. Both ginger and mint also give me massive heartburn. I'm taking 5-HTP-CR at night for the migrating motor complex. Eating low FODMAP for now, and I'm about to try Digest Gold enzymes.
Yep.
Am I on the right track? By the way, I live in Canada where SIBO doesn't exist. Ha ha ha. So pharmaceuticals are not an option.
So yes, the thing about, so there's a couple of ways to go about it. One is you can just try it. If it makes a difference, then go for it. Digest Gold is actually one of my favorite ones. I like that one. There's also, you can lab test to see if you need it. The lab test that's out there is an elastase. It actually is pretty clinically accurate. And so the way that you think about elastase is if that marker comes up low on the stool, you definitely need the protein or the animal-based enzymes. If that marker is normal, then I would start by trying some of the plant-based enzymes. Simulase is a plant-based enzyme product, because sometimes you might have enough of the enzymes that break down meats, but you need some help with the enzymes that break down vegetables. But as a whole, I feel like there is no yes or no. There is, does it help you or doesn't it?
And what do you think about taking digestive enzymes in between meals?
I don't think that, then it's really anti-inflammatory, but it's not helping you digest. So if you take it during a meal, it works as a digestive aid. If you take it between meals, it's a good anti-inflammatory.
Okay. So the other thing is, I have questions for you. I'm not the doctor, obviously, and this isn't medical advice. Please talk to your physician about all of this. But Dr. Gurevich is certainly giving us a lot to think about today. I'm wondering what kind of bitters you're doing, and that HCl at any dose, ginger and mint, massive heartburn. What do you think about that, Dr. Gurevich?
So, you know, the first thing that I think about is she might have a GI emptying issue. I also wonder how much she's taking and if she's taking it. The body is really, really good at telling you if you need it or not. If you take it and it makes you feel worse, that's not what you're needing.
And are you talking about the HCl?
I'm talking about the HCl. There's never been any studies on HCl. Some people say that it has really good clinical efficacy. Other people don't. So it's like the enzymes. There are very few studies on enzymes. The main studies on enzymes are all about frank pancreatic insufficiency, like a patient with cystic fibrosis. So it's one of those things that I think is safe. And if it helps, use it. And when it helps, people are like, oh my God, that really helps.
Right. You know, I'm the one who did do that HCl protocol to get off my proton pump inhibitors after 7 years. And I had to try it 3 times. And lo and behold, no more purple pills for me. I mean, that was one, that and LDN were some of the most profound things that have happened to me since 2015. Yeah. And I know my ear, nose, and throat doctor was like, there's no way that will have nothing. That will do nothing for you. Yeah. I was like, well, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I still don't understand how it works. How does that work?
Okay. So the way that your lower esophageal sphincter gets the message.
What's that? Is that this right here?
That's that one right there. Yep. Yep. Okay. And it's like kind of a twist, to be honest. It's not a sphincter. It's like a, but the way that it gets the message to close is when there is enough acid within the stomach. So because of that physiology, there's a lot of theory in the natural medicine community that if the lower esophageal sphincter is left open and you're getting a lot of reflux, it's because of the fact that there's not enough acid in the stomach. Okay. And so that's when you have the protocols that say take as much acid until you get burning and then back down. I've tried that protocol with thousands of people. I've actually never seen that one be successful. But I think that sometimes supplementing with an HCl enzyme together or just an HCl to start digestion is really clinically helpful.
I'm just going to tell you what happened to me, because if this could help someone else, I did it for 3 nights and that was it. There was no turning back. And I'm going to tell you, you know how much other stuff I've tried, obviously. And that and LDN, again, were the only things that have super duper helped me, and cranial, sacral, and visceral manipulation. But it was 3 nights and that was it, doctor. I mean, is that even like...
You took it for 3 nights and that's it. You didn't need it after that.
Correct.
Did you have to taper your PPI? Like get off of it slowly?
No. I mean, the first 2 times I did it, I was uncomfortable so much that I was like, oh, I'll never do this again. And then I was just like, oh, one more time. And I did it. I think the first night I maybe like, I just like went cold turkey. I don't suggest this. This is not sound medical advice, you guys. I'm just telling you my experience. And then after the 3rd night, never had to do it since. And I had lived on Maalox, and I mean lived on it. And I saw a college girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh, you're into gut health and stuff." I'm like, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Oh yeah, I remember you used to do Maalox back in the day at University of Florida." And I was like, "What?" I didn't even remember that I had acid reflux
for that long. Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Anyway, we move on. I just want, if it gives you any knowledge of how I'm with you guys and why I started this community, is I have been suffering for so long. So I'm in it with you. Don't give up. I have gotten better. I'm managing my Sibo, and I'm here to learn right alongside with you. So enough about me. Back to you, Nikki. And what else? Are digestive gold enzymes? Dr. Michael Murray was on our summit. Amazing.
I really like that one. Yeah, I really like that one. Progest is another one that I use by Integrative Therapeutics, but really just try them.
Okay. Little goes a long way there, right?
Yeah.
What is 5-HTP-CR at night for the migrating motor complex? Is that enough for a prokinetic?
My answer is I've never seen the studies on it. So 5-HTP is 5-hydroxytryptophan, which the theory behind that is we know that serotonin causes the migrating motor complex, and palcurapride or Resilor or Motegrity is what it'll be introduced in the US when it finally comes out here. That is a 5-HT4 agonist. So we're using the same mechanism of action. And so some people have a lot of success with it. I do think it's dose dependent. So sometimes if you're well controlled, say the dose you are. If you're not, try to go up. There's the side effect of using too much 5-HTP is something called serotonin 6 syndrome, which is like a lot of lethargy and fatigue, and it's quite dangerous. Actually, it could be critical. So you need to be careful of that. So Google serotonin 6 syndrome symptoms just to know what to watch for. But that one has the potential to cause side effects. But yes, it's one of the main key ingredients in Motil Pro, which is one of my favorite prokinetics.
Okay. You guys, some of you are wondering where the link is. I don't know what to tell you because we're live right now on this link, so I'm not sure what's happening. What's the relationship between Sibo and gastroparesis? Does one cause the other? Can you heal from Sibo if you suffer from gastroparesis?
So gastroparesis is very, very severe lack of digestive emptying. Sibo generally has a mild form of gastroparesis. Diabetes would have a much more significant form of gastroparesis. They do present very similarly because the GI can't empty and you just have a ton of food stagnation. That would be like the layman's term. If you have gastroparesis, probably you have Sibo along with it. I can't say always, but I would say Sibo is one of the underlying causes of gastroparesis.
Sibo is one of the underlying causes of gastroparesis. Interesting. Okay. Okay. There was no other place to really submit your questions, guys. It's just here in the thread. Got it. Okay. I don't know what's happening exactly. Okay. But everyone will be able to see this recording. We have some more questions. Hang on here. I usually have someone helping me, and today I don't, so we're just going to keep doing our best here. Is there anything you can do to prevent recurring Sibo flare-ups? I've had quite a few in my adult life, even before I knew what Sibo was. The treatment always works and may stay away for several years. Then, when everything seems to be going well, it rears its ugly little self. This last time it was after abdominal surgery.
Oh yeah, that's a trigger. I mean, yes. So one of the ways that I always have my patients, I always have them do prevention when they travel because food poisoning is one of the big triggers. So I either have them take rifaximin with travel or herbs and Saccharomyces and enzymes with travel. So that's one thing that I have them do a lot. If you're going to go into surgery, that that it does cause adhesions, it does cause gastroparesis. You are on antibiotics usually. That one's just a big one. So what I'm doing a lot now is I'm doing a lot of high dose Saccharomyces, which I'll talk about on Saturday about why I'm using it and what the studies are with that. But that is one of the things that I like a lot for prevention when you're going into one of these situations that is going to be bad. And then the other thing is, if you have a relapse, just start your treatment immediately right away. You know what's happening. And often if you catch it really quick, it won't get as bad.
Okay. I have a couple of questions for you for that on Saturday. If you guys have already signed up for the class on Saturday, you have the link to submit your questions for Saturday. So the link for today should have just been a link to this Facebook group. And then you guys find us in the group. So there was no link that took you to this specific Q&A today. On Saturday, we will be in Zoom, and you have the link to that. Okay, I'm going to move on from all the technical stuff. What's the most effective and least symptomatic fiber for Sibo? I find with added fiber, my Sibo symptoms are reduced because less is sitting in my intestines to react to yet some fuel the fire.
I don't have a good answer for that because it's very person dependent. Some people do really well with partially hydrolyzed guar gum. Some people do really well with flax or psyllium. I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
And some people do terrible with fiber.
Okay, some people do terrible with fiber. If someone, we're just told for so long that doing fiber is what's good for our gut.
Yeah, so it's really good for the large bowel because it causes the bacteria to reproduce at a relatively rapid amount, and the bacteria that gets reproduced is butyrate, butyric acid pushing bacteria, which is good for your GIs and anti-inflammatory. But it can most definitely flare people who have too much bacteria in the small intestine because it's making the bacteria reproduce, which is more the underlying cause of the problem.
So if you have leaky gut and you're suggested take butyric acid, are you saying that that's not necessarily a good idea?
Me and butyric acid, I have never seen it to be clinically effective, ever. I have read the studies and I have talked to doctors who have been in practice for like 30 years who swear by butyric acid. And I really want it to work. In my clinical practice, I have never seen it work, ever.
I just bought some and it smells really bad. Have you ever smelled it?
I mean, it's like sticky. It's great for the large bowel because it's like sticky and rich and it just really like coats the bacteria. I know I have heard it and I would love to see one person who has good efficacy from it. And, the other thing is what I've come away with, because I did all of these talks for you and then I made them into continuing ed and I started using a lot more. But what I found during the research that I did is a lot of what I was using, the doses were too low. And that was like a really big aha wake up moment for me where I was like, everybody says this works, but maybe it didn't work because the doses were so high. I mean, the doses that I were using was too low and the doses that I needed for clinical efficacy were too high. And that's really what I came away from is some of the stuff might work, but I wasn't dosing it high enough. Like that's really, really true for glutamine. I was underdosing glutamine by a lot. The studies had glutamine for IBS at 5 grams 3 times a day, for IBD at 9 grams 3 times a day. And I was using 500 milligrams, maybe twice a day.
Okay, I understand. Wow. Okay.
So maybe that's why butyric acid hasn't worked. Siobhan, I might need to switch rooms.
Okay. We're at 5 Eastern time. Okay. Well, honey, we're here for you. So if you want to scooch around and I'll just talk and look around and stuff.
Find a room and then I'm going to be right back.
Okay.
This is the joy of.
Because she's at her clinic right now, you guys. And so she's taking time out of her busy practice to be with us today, which I really appreciate. I don't know what happened with the link. If you received an email with the link and now you're saying that you can't find it, I don't know what to tell you. So here's the deal, guys. When we send you a link for Facebook Lives, we're just sending you to the Facebook group. And then once you're in the group, you need to look around and find us live at the appropriate time. So this will be recorded. We are going to also send this out in an email. This is a neat little sneak peek if you can't afford to come to the session on Saturday. I hope this is helping. Dr. Gurevich also does do phone consultations, and or Skype or whatever medium she used for teledocking. And then she also does not only specializes in Sibo, but she also does IBD and Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. So if you know anyone who has something that's serious and they're looking for a good doctor, she's amazing. Also, if you have parasites, she's the one who said, if you have parasites, your Sibo won't clear until your parasites are gone. Dr. Gurevich's experience, she said, if your parasites are still there, your Sibo won't clear until they're gone. How's that? That was freaky, isn't it? Colonic inertia. I wonder if that's different than gastroparesis. Let me find that out when she comes back. We probably have her for another 15 minutes. So I know not everyone's on Facebook. We are going to eventually take all our Facebook Lives and put them on our YouTube channel, which is Sibo SOS. But in the meantime, she's back. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's fine.
We're in the
You
middle
know,
of
guys,
the shift at the clinic, and so I had to switch rooms.
no worries. We are live, uncut, and unrehearsed. How do you promote feeding the bacteria during a protocol or doing low FODMAP?
I don't think you should. Well, for your first round, I don't think you should do low FODMAP. I think you should have some kind of carbs with every meal. I tell patients the equivalent of a quarter cup to a half a cup with every meal. Your second round, sometimes people don't want to take a diet vacation to go back to eating regularly because they feel so much worse. And so then partially hydrolyzed guar gum is, clinically tested. And so that's usually what I recommend if they don't want to do the diet vacation.
And partially hydrolyzed guar gum is a fiber, right?
It is a fiber, and which is very paradoxical, especially to what I just said. And it seems to be very well tolerated.
And how much of that do you take?
5 grams per day in divided doses. So usually 2-1-2 or 1-2-2. You just break it up.
And do you do it at the same time as you're doing your pop the rifaximin or pop the herbals and at the same time?
Exactly.
And the reason for that, is that because of the bile?
Say that again?
Is that because of the bile, B-I-L-E, the bile, and how?
Why you're taking the partially hydrolyzed guar gum?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's partially bile and partially feeding the bacteria.
Got it. Okay. Does colonic inertia cause SIBO, or does SIBO cause colonic inertia? And that's not the same as what you were just talking about with stomach emptying, which now I can't remember what that's called.
Gastroparesis.
Gastroparesis.
So colonic inertia is, I think they might be talking about peristalsis.
Okay.
I've never heard that tone, colonic inertia. So peristalsis should be something completely different from SIBO, because peristalsis is isolated to the large bowel, just like the migrating motor complex is isolated to the small bowel. So I'm not sure.
We're going to keep going because I know we don't have you forever, but we do have her on Saturday. Okay, in case you don't receive my questions, I'll ask, if you have SIBO, parasites, and SIFO, how do you know what to treat first? Also, can prokinetics be taken before, during, or after protocols, or after only? And they like your haircut.
It's liberating. So I always start with parasites. Because there was a 2014 study that was incredible, where basically they talked about not even frank parasites, but what we're now classifying as protozoa, which are not, protozoa is sometimes considered commensal and sometimes considered pathogenic. Commensal means maybe it's there and it just hangs out. But they linked Dientamoeba fragilis and Endolimax nana and Hardami, what's that one? I can't remember. Entamoeba hardami, to basically changing the microbiome composition of an intestine. So if you have protozoa or parasites, you get a different microbiome with more pathogenic funguses, with more pathogenic bacteria. So I always start with parasites. And then I actually see where things land after we treat the parasites or the worms. And I have seen, it's like I had a patient come in, she had diarrhea for 25 years. She saw gastros, she saw naturopaths, she saw everybody. We ran a stool test. She had a worm and she was like, I know when I got that worm. I was working for, not AmeriCorps, but the one for the world. Peace Corps. She was working for the Peace Corps. I know when I got that worm, nobody's ever been able to find it. We treated the worm with 3 days of mebendazole. When I saw her last, she had not a single diarrhea episode in 6 weeks, which is the longest she'd gone in 25 years. I didn't need to treat her microbiome after that. We found the causative agent. The body will restore itself to normal if you find the underlying pathogen.
God bless you. Do you have to retreat? Do you think of the whole cycle with the new moon and the full moon and all that?
For worms or for parasites?
Anything?
For worms, no, not usually. Okay. They don't seem to be in that reproductive cycle. For parasites, I do. I don't have any studies, but I have a lot of folklore. So
Okay.
I do go new moon and full moon. The only one that I go longer for is blastocystis homini because it's really difficult to eradicate. And so if you're blastocystis homini positive, I'm probably doing 21 days straight.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that on Saturday. And guys, watch if you are able to pick up the mini series from Dr. Gurevich. She talks a lot about that in the first of the 2 videos. Okay, I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
Does the lower amount of 5-HTP cause sleep issues?
No, potentially. You definitely 5-HTP is one of those things that we use to treat sleep.
What do you think about? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the reason why is because 5-HTP is the precursor to melatonin. The way that conversion happens is your eyes, you take 5-HTP or you have 5-HTP in your system, your eyes see darkness, it starts that enzymatic cascade to convert you into melatonin. And so that's why some people get really good responses with 5-HTP nightly because it starts that melatonin cascade.
Got it. What do you think about doing the wheat zoomer, corn zoomer, egg zoomer, nut zoomer, and IBS Shore tests?
I don't know.
I don't know what the zoomer tests are. Do you?
No, sorry.
But you know, I don't know what the IBS Shore test is. I know what the IBS Smart test is.
Me too. But I don't know what any of those are.
My naturopath wants me to work with a dietitian. Now I want to know, is it a dietitian or is it a nutritionist? But I'm on 10 foods and very hesitant to progress my diet without any base knowledge. Guys, you know what? If you're in this group, you have 15 minutes free with Christy Regan. Look at the top of the Facebook group, the cover, you'll see her picture. She's giving 15 minutes free as a Sibo nutritionist to people in this group. I actually have not over advertised it because she's so busy and I don't want her to have like 1,000 people on the waiting list. But I also wanted you to be aware of it. So it's the person who takes initiative here and reaches out to her, who's getting 15 minutes free with an incredible Sibo nutritionist. So please, my suggestion would be to reach out to her. Do you agree with that, Dr.
And her cookbook is also beautiful. Her cookbook is great. Yeah, she knows what she definitely knows what she's doing.
Trust us when we say that to you. That's 15 minutes free because you're here. So thank you and you're welcome. All right. Yay, you guys made it in here. If you are in the Saturday class already, you've already enrolled for the $59 and you're going to be getting like 10 hours worth of information. And you've already submitted your questions or you received the form to submit your questions when you registered. They're in our system. Okay. So the questions here should be posted in Facebook. Okay. Let's see what else you got here. What do you mean by a diet vacation?
So diet vacation means you're taking all your antimicrobials. You want to promote all of the bad bacteria. If you want to kill a mafia, you invite them all to a wedding. And so that means you take a break from your restricted diet and you eat whatever you want.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Is the IBS Shore the same as the IBS Smart test? I say no.
I don't know. I've never heard of the IBS Shore. Let me see.
I haven't either. But IBS Smart, guys, that is the test that that Dr. Pimentel helped to develop, that Dr. Seebecker talked to Dr. Pimentel about, that is like a turbocharged IBS check test.
IBS Sure, S-U-R-E or S-H-O-R-E?
They're saying S-U-R-E, IBS S-U-R-E. Hang on.
I mean, I just found markers measured. Let's see what markers are measured. Oh, yes, it's the same thing. It's the anti-CD-TB and the anti-vinculum. Okay.
Well, this is the IBS Smart. Guys, I just got it. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. If you and so what you do is you get your doctor to get a script for you, and then you can even go to the IBS Smart test website, and there's a link there that you can click on and it's something, they'll reach out to your doctor's office. It's very, very straightforward. Anyway, this test to see if you have post-infectious IBS, and this is the test that Dr. Pimentel helps to develop. So then you get your blood drawn at like any lab test now. It's all, the instructions are all really clear. And your insurance may or may not pay for it. It's not that expensive by comparison to other tests. I personally am a huge fan because once I found out that I did have post-infectious IBS, I was able to go back through my life and go, oh, now that makes sense. When I went to India and drank water buffalo milk that had been unpasteurized, when I was on that field trip and we milked a cow and we drank the milk like a farmer, New York City girl, what was I doing? And I got super sick. Oh, and then I could just go through my life and all of the times I had food poisoning, the trip to Mexico, the cruise, blah, blah, blah. I've had it so many times. And then to get the test to confirm that I did have the antibody, which slows down the migrating motor complex. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to look at our Dr. Mark Pimentel masterclasses where he explains everything. And he is coming up again in March. We can't wait. For another masterclass. So this is the test I definitely want to highly recommend. What do you think, Dr. Gurevich?
I think, where else it comes in really important for me clinically is to figure out if somebody needs to be on prokinetics or not. Because if they don't have a post-infectious IBS, those prokinetics can go away way faster than if they do.
I'm telling you,
yeah,
please, if you don't know what your underlying cause is, if you know you don't have an ileocecal valve, okay. If you know that you have adhesions, okay, that's another thing. But if you don't know what your underlying cause is, this is one of the smartest things you can do. Thank you. Okay, that's what I had to say. You're saying that Dr. Pimentel helped develop the IBS SURE test as well.
No, all I'm saying, I don't know about that. All I know is it's measuring exactly the same markers.
Okay.
It's measuring the anti-CDTB and the vinculum.
Okay. I don't know how it's different than the IBS detects.
I don't either. But I will say that there is potentially a difference because there was a different Quest Labs also came out with a test, which was also anti-CDTB and anti-vinculum, but it was different. When we asked Pimentel about it, he said they did something differently. I can't remember what right now, but he said they did something differently.
Somebody's saying that it is from Quest and it's covered. Let's move on. Hey guys, the more information, the better, seriously. So if you have a test that's covered by insurance, by all means.
I agree.
Christy Regan is at Vital Food Therapeutics. I think we have her information on the Facebook cover, so you can reach out to her there. Are there universal drugs for parasites, Dr. Gurevich?
Say that again?
Are there universal drugs for parasites?
No. That would be great. That would be great.
Wouldn't that be great? What do you think about Mimosa pudica?
Oh, okay. So interesting. There are some pretty interesting studies about it. What else? Literally, I get Medscape. I get Medscape to my inbox, and I put the areas in medicine that I'm interested in, and so I put gastroenterology and parasites. And they just came out with a study 2 weeks ago, because I emailed it over to Allison and Michael Ruscio because I was so excited about it. They just came out with a study comparing for schistoplasmosis, which is this very common infection in tropical third world countries, but we don't have it in the US. But so theoretically, they came out with this study that compared praziquantel, which is the drug, to using artemisia, argi, or wormwood. And they looked at how effective wormwood was for killing this one particular worm. And they found that it was more effective than praziquantel with less side effects. So I will tell you, I will be honest, I am generally always on the if it's a parasite, treat it with drug train. But this study was pretty interesting. And so, as a whole, I generally don't treat them with herbs because parasitic medications work so well. And I might be wrong.
So we had Dr. Jay Davidson on the summit, and he is a big Lyme and parasite guy. And he swears by Mimosa pudica and has a really gross story about how it helped him. I'll leave it at that. But I think it's going to become really, really important.
And Artemisia, Michael Ruscio loves Artemisia for his own personal experience with parasites.
Right. So we're going to talk more about that. Watch if you have been able to pick up the class from Dr. Gurevich. She talks more about parasites in that class. And, it's so easy to disavow parasites because we're in, although I know people from all over the world are watching this, but in the United States, the UK, we feel like we're in these really advanced societies, which we are. Look at her. And yet one leaf of lettuce with something funky on it. I just was watching Pedram Shojai, who's a big online health educator and doctor, and he had the Viome test done. And so he had the woman from Viome come and interpret his tests online and videotaped it. I'm going to try to get that done for everybody with me because I found it so fascinating. And he had in his microbiome some viruses that you can get from eating tomatoes and green peppers that live in the fruits and veggies. Now, you're talking to a hardcore vegetarian here, so part of that hurt me to hear that, but nothing's perfect. You can get all kinds of stuff from meat too. I'm not saying anything either way. I'm just saying everybody thinks that if you wash your fruits and veggies, it's a-okay. Like it should be fine, right, Dr. Gurevich? What is up?
So I live in Portland, Oregon, in America. I'm on municipal water. And what I always talk about is Portland, Oregon has such a severe cryptosporidium issue. And so crypto comes into the waterways and then Giardia follows it. And so we are seeing crypto and Giardia on a lot of our patients. It got so bad that the state of Oregon has mandated that Multnomah County actually build a water treatment facility, which they are, but it'll be built in 2027. I live in Portland, Oregon.
Do you have, do your kids, can you get that from showering? I'm coming to Portland in March.
So I definitely think that it's a good idea to either have a water filter or drink bottled water. A Brita does not count. A Brita doesn't count the Pure doesn't count as a water filter. You need to have a filter beyond 1 microgram. And if you guys want a resource on it, Dr. Ami Kapadia, she also did an interview with you. She is probably one of the most research, like that woman researches more than anybody I've ever met. And so she has on her website, which I think is dramikapadia.com or something like that. She has a handout about proper water filtration systems that you can put into your house.
Okay.
So yes, can you get that from the shower? No, how often do you have the shower water in your mouth? You know what I mean? Like
brushing my teeth?
Yeah, the answer is definitely maybe. Definitely maybe. And I would just definitely be protective about your drinking water. And maybe if you're really compromised, like somebody who has post-infectious IBS, you might want to be even more cautious, like using bottled water.
Okay.
And the other thing I want to say is I talk a lot about parasites, and I think parasites are a big part of the IBS community and sometimes the IBD community. But really, it's not the bug, it's the terrain. And so you want to kill the bug, but you also want to make sure you rebuild a really healthy, diverse microbiome that would, really treat the inflammation that's underlying the issue. Because it's doesn't, like, the bugs matter, but the terrain matters more. That's why somebody else might be really susceptible to water that's not filtered, but I might be okay.
Right. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to whip through a couple of more of these questions. Sorry if there was some confusion about which link, but guys, when it's if you're not used to Facebook and you're here in the group now for like the first time and you're trying to watch this just for future reference, you just go to the Facebook group and you go to like recent activity and you should find it in your feed. It has to do with your different settings. So sorry about that. I hope you have been able to watch this, but we are sending it out in the email. We don't always do that, but we are going to be doing that today. So if you're watching this, know it's coming in your email tomorrow. Okay, hold on. This will be worth it. And Deanna, if you have Sibo, parasites, and SIFO, what do you treat first? We already talked about that. Did we already talk about that?
Parasites.
Okay. Also, can prokinetics be taken anytime before, during protocol, or should they only be taken at the end of the protocol?
I start them in once you're done with the antimicrobials. I don't want you taking them with antimicrobials because I want the antimicrobials to work. But as soon as you're done with the antimicrobials, that's the first thing you start.
And the reason why they might, you don't want them moving too fast through the gut. Is that?
I want the antimicrobials to move. It'll work better. It'll get more time to work if you have a slower GI.
Right. She watched us during the Sibo Summit and purchased the master classes. Thank you, Dr. Gurevich. Indicated that if you don't get better after addressing Sibo, Then to look at other factors such as viruses. If I may ask in this forum, how do you test for viruses?
DNA is the only good way.
Okay, she has strep from muscle testing. How do I test for and treat this virus? Thanks, love you both. Okay, love you too. When you say DNA testing, what do you mean?
So the only viruses are much harder to test for, period, full stop. If you want to, so strep, depending on the strain, might cause GI effects or might not want to go directly to the GI. Kind of depends on the strain. So the way that I look for it is I always look for DNA PCR testing to see what's in there, and you'll find viruses that way. Viruses, however, generally speaking, pass through pretty quick.
That's
so like if you're gonna have like a norovirus, you know, or a adenovirus, right? Those are going to be, you're going to get hit hard, they're going to pass. Cytomegalovirus, that's going to be a lot slower. That has a high correlation. If you have ulcerative colitis, you have a higher likelihood of cytomegalovirus in there. That, you know, viruses in the GI, they're not usually what I'm looking for. I'm looking much more for bacteria, and I'm looking much more for parasites and protozoa and worms.
Okay. Alpha lipoic acid, 600, doctor's best brand for biofilms, question mark.
I don't, that's not what I use. I'm using Interface Plus by Claire Labs, or I'm using Imprimis Labs Biozolve. That one's a prescription. Interface Plus is not.
And then Priority One has Dr. Paul Anderson.
Yep. And that one has black cumin seed, bismuth, subnitrate, and alpha lipoic acid.
That's Priority One?
That's Priority One. Or Vital Priority One, I think.
I think, well, Dr. Paul Anderson's formula is with Priority One, who is going to be in the docu-series. I just got to confirm after chasing this poor man for 15 months. So excited, guys. He is an incredible expert on biofilms, right?
Yeah. He is the guy that brought it to our awareness after Klinghardt brought it to our awareness about other things.
Klinghardt, Dr. Klinghardt, yes. Do you know anyone who knows Dr. Klinghardt so I can get an email for him so I can see if he'll be in my docuseries?
Yes. Do you know Brooke Bodine?
No, but email me later.
You know Tom Messenger. Tom Messenger knows Brooke. Brooke was his resident. She has pretty good contact to him.
Okay, great.
So reach out to Tom.
Okay.
Or you know what? When we get done, I'll send you guys a virtual introduction.
Thank you so much. Okay, Janet, there's supposed to be a new kind of Sibo breath test coming out, hydrogen sulfide. What is the information on how to access this test? Who is supplying that test? What can I expect from these Sibo tests? Okay, so do you want to give us the update on this hydrogen sulfide test? Do you know?
I don't know. Do you know?
Oh, you're clicking out. You're clicking out.
Can you see me now? Should I reset?
Yep.
I don't know. I can tell you what hydrogen sulfide is and how it presents, but I don't know anything about the test. Okay,
so I'll just tell you the test is coming out, they hope this year, and it is for hydrogen sulfide, and Dr. Pimentel has developed it, and has worked really hard on it. He announced that last year at Digestive Disease Week. By the way, we have Dr. Mark Pimentel for a masterclass on first week of March. So definitely watch your emails for that, guys. Dr. Gurevich, go ahead and tell us about what hydrogen sulfide SIBO is.
So, hydrogen sulfide is a different bacteria that always presents as diarrhea. It wouldn't be a constipation like methanogens. And usually these people are unresponsive to general treatments with rifaximin alone or with herbs. It, on the SIBO test, presents like a flat line. And so that's what hydrogen sulfide is. But I don't know anything about the testing and when it's kind of coming out.
Okay, I think it's going to be out this year, guys. And believe me, as soon as it's out, I will let everybody know. Okay, we're going to wrap up. I will put the link. First of all, if you're on our email list, you've gotten information about Dr. Gurevich's class. If you go to SIBOSOS.com, you can find information there, SIBOSOS.com, and you can sign up. It is $59. You're getting her first masterclass that is on Beyond Sibo, and it has to do with integrative testing as well as the tests that you can get usually through your insurance. If you have a Sibo breath test and it's like negative and yet you still have symptoms, or if you can't afford a Sibo breath test and you can afford some other, insurance helped tests, this is definitely the class for you. She also goes over the optimal blood levels versus the blood levels of your community, like Quest in the United States and LabCorp, which have to do with ranges that have to do with the population in your community. It's very interesting. And then in the next class it is on how to heal your gut, along with supplements that are based, going to help you based on studies, as well as supplements that she and her colleagues have used in their practices. And then on Saturday, I'm actually going to play those videos for you. And then we will bring Dr. Gurevich on live for an update to that material, where she's going to be talking about those probiotics and other things and dosing. And then we'll go into the Q&A. Whew, that was a lot. Yes, please do leave some love for Dr. Gurevich. We love hearing from you. And you're a peach, Dr. Gurevich. Oh, wait, last but not least, the gal with the virus is meant staph, not strep. Does that impact you at all?
Staph is usually, we're most worried about it when it's methyl resistant staph, like MRSA. Sometimes it can really affect the GI and sometimes not necessarily. So it kind of depends on the strain of staph.
Okay. And the reason why we do this Facebook Live is because I want, first of all of you to understand how powerful these sessions are for the master classes, but also if you cannot afford $59, I get it. And so I want to be able to, and thank you very much, Dr. Gurevich, you're very generous, to at least give you some starting points for free so that, we're all on a budget, I understand. On the other hand, I also know that if I buy a bottle of supplements and it's $60 and it doesn't work for me, or I'm not taking the dosage properly, then I feel like I kind of wasted that money. And you will be getting like 1.5, at least 2.5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is about over 7 hours of incredible content, including the Q&As. And I want to also just say this, and I think you guys know this, but you learn so much from your own questions getting answered, but think about all of the help we get from listening to other people's questions get answered. I think sometimes, at least in the States, we think, well, but I'm the most important one. My questions are special, which they are. And so I think we tend to think, well, if it's not my question getting answered, it's not as helpful. I learn so much from everybody else's questions because it's stuff I never thought of, right? Or maybe if I don't have your condition now, I had it and I could have gotten rid of it sooner, or God forbid I have it in the future. I want to know about it as soon as possible. So those are just some thoughts for you. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Gurevich. I'll see you on Saturday.